guys, what's up? Steam Joe here. I am back and better than ever. How's everybody doing? I am here with the review slash recap of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now this one is for episode 2 and it is for the English dub version. The show just premiered on Toonami last week, and this episode continues the strong start. It picked up 7 years later after episode 1, and we are now still are in England, but London, but now we're in the city, and they are showing Jack the Ripper, and he is killing women, and he's making a bad name for London. But the narrator says that his story pales in comparison to JoJo and Dio's ongoing rivalry. So the next scene is the college that both JoJo and Dio are attending. It shows them playing a rugby match. JoJo intercepts the ball, and we also see a JoJo that is a lot more muscular, a lot stronger. So JoJo is running, and he gets tackled by his opponents. I think 4 of them tackled him. First it was 3, and they tried to slow him down, but they couldn't. JoJo was still moving, so the 4th one came from out of the air, which is kind of weird. And he jumped on JoJo's back. JoJo stopped moving, but then he passed the ball to Dio, of all people. So Dio grabs it. He dodges 2 people at first, then dodges 2 more, and then scores the points. This was the last collegiate game of JoJo's career. Dio is studying law, and JoJo is trying to become an archaeologist. So, and it also looks like JoJo and Dio are good friends. So everybody, all the teammates and the fans are cheering, saying, "Yeah, we won." Then JoJo gives Dio a handshake, and they both tell each other good job. JoJo tells Dio that he scored the ball perfectly, and Dio is like, "Well, after seeing you getting tackled and still moving with all those people on you, I felt like I had to help you out." So Dio leaves, and then that's when JoJo starts to talk to himself, and he says that even though he is treating Dio with respect, like a brother would, deep down inside he still feels like Dio is evil, and he can't forgive him for the things that he did on episode 1, which was kill his dog, take his home, make everybody hate him, make everybody call him a snitch. Yeah, JoJo's still upset. So the reporter asks Dio, how did himself and JoJo become good friends? And then Dio tried to brush it off, not answer it, but then the reporter asked him again, and that's when Dio started to talk to himself, and he said that even though he is even though he's saying that he liked JoJo and he likes to be around him and everything, he's just waiting for his opportunity to strike and take the Joestar's money. Dio told JoJo that they should tell their father. Well, really JoJo's father, but Dio is adopted now, so it's Dio's father also. So now we see George Joestar, who is very ill. But he is bedridden and coughing, and chest is hurting. He is not doing too good. So then George was talking to Dio and JoJo, and he told the 2 that the house doctors that they have told him told George that he should go to the hospital. But then Dio felt like that wasn't a good thing to do, the best thing to do, because of the Joestar's fame and fortune. He thought that they was going to try to kill him at the hospital. So that's when George was like, oh, okay. That's when George told Dio and JoJo that one of his old college mates had told him about the win that Dio and JoJo had at the rugby game. Dio cracked a joke, chuckle, chuckle, laugh, laugh. And that's when George said that he was proud of both Dio and JoJo for what they have become. Because Dio is also big too. Dio and JoJo got muscles on top of muscles, and they're a lot taller. But it's 7 years later, so that explains a lot. But these two guys are like big and chunky. They like muscle men. They're crazy. George told Dio that whatever your ambition is, follow through with it, and he would help. But little does George know that Dio is trying to take over the Joestar estate, fame, and fortune. So, so now the next scene is JoJo fooling around with the mags. He realized the last fight he had with Dio, when JoJo splattered Dio's blood across the mags and how it jumped up and had the legs up under. JoJo saw that, and now he's experimenting with the mags, trying to figure out what makes it tick. But he also likes to look at it because it reminds him of his mother. As strange as that may be, that was his mother's mags, and that's really the only way for JoJo to stay close to her. JoJo's goal is to become one of the greatest archaeologists, and he felt like if he could figure the mags out, that would give him his chance to be that. So he was on a ladder looking at books, and he was at the top row, well, almost the top row. Then he knocked down this box which contained the letter that Dario gave to Dio when he was dying, when Dario was dying. So JoJo read it, and that's when he realized that Dio's dad had the same symptoms as George, and how the letter basically gave Dio the rite of passage to the Joestar family. So JoJo started to put two and two together, and then he realized that maybe Dio is trying to kill George for the estate. So JoJo comes out the room, the library, that's where he was at, and he sees Dio coming up the stairs with medicine and water. JoJo tells Dio to wait, and then that's when he realizes that Dio was the only one that was giving George his medicine. And each time he got his medicine, he got worse and worse. Because it started off as a cold for George, but now it's escalating to like pneumonia or something, I don't know. Then JoJo asks Dio if he was the only one who was giving him the medicine. Dio replies back yes, and that's when JoJo starts to call out Dio, saying that it's too coincidental that your father died the same way George looked like he's going to die. They both had a hard time breathing, chest pains, and was very sick. So then JoJo tried to take the medicine away from Dio. Dio yet again grabbed his wrist. Dio grabbed his wrist and was upset that JoJo would even accuse him of that. So then and Dio was like, well, if we put the medicine back on the platter with the water, I'll forget you even said it. And then JoJo stepped back stepped back with the medicine still in his hand because Dio let his wrist go. And then that's when JoJo told Dio to swear on his father's life that he was not trying to kill George. So JoJo thought that Dio, if he was telling the truth, he would be able to swear, but if not, he wouldn't be able to swear. Dio was like stunned, like, oh, he was almost like frozen or something with his hands up in the air, kind of. So then JoJo was like, well, what are you waiting for? Say it. And then that's when Dio started to do like his eyes was getting rolled in the back of his head. And it was kind of a weird scene. So then that's when Dio was like, how can I have honor in a man who had no honor in himself? Which makes sense. So then he talked about how he drove his mother to death, and they show flashes of him Dio's father abusing Dio, and I guess the mother too. And he's drinking and everything. The guy was an alcoholic, and anybody who knows who an alcoholic is, especially a violent one, then that's Dario. Now, Dio, excuse me, throws a punch at JoJo right in the face, in the cheeks, all that. I think it was a right, and the punch landed, but it wasn't strong enough to knock JoJo out. So JoJo is basically talking with Dio's fist all in his cheek, and was like, this is all the proof I need to tell everybody that you are trying to kill George, you are trying to kill my father. So then Dio, still with his fist in JoJo's cheek, tried to stick his thumb in JoJo's eye, again like on the first episode, but this time JoJo dodged it, grabbed his arm, grabbed Dio's arm, and then threw him, because they was on the top floor, he threw Dio to the bottom floor, right on the side of the stairs. And then that's when JoJo said that Dio was trying to kill his father, he can't be trusted, you're not going to hurt my family. JoJo is really protective now, and he's ready for Dio to go. So Dio gets up, and his arm is hurt. He's walking down the hallway holding his arm, and now JoJo is trying to figure out what kind of medicine or what kind of poison was Dio giving to his father, George. So now JoJo goes on a trip to the ghetto of London. They call it Ogre Street, but it's where all the hoodlums, goons, just the darkest of dark people, they live on Ogre Street. And Dio was born and raised there. But JoJo felt like that was where the medicine was gotten, or the poison was gotten. What other place would sell poison other than Ogre Street? So, So now JoJo is off, but before he leaves, he makes sure that only I think maybe like 5 or 6 butlers give George medicine. And JoJo told them and George that they were the only ones, those butlers are the only ones who are to give George medicine. But it was funny though, because he kicked out his, not kicked out, but he told the original butler who was on the first episode, I guess who was like the family butler for years and years, that he couldn't give George medicine anymore. So the original butler was sad. But George was like, if JoJo said that, this is the way to go, and we have to follow him. And then George said that he trusts JoJo with his life. And JoJo was assured of that. He was happy, and he set off to the city of London. But as JoJo was leaving in his horse carriage, Dio was watching from the window, and now Dio is planning and plotting again. So he takes the max out of JoJo's cabinet, and he's ready. He's gonna put it. His goal with that max is to put it on JoJo and hurt JoJo, but hurt him in a way that couldn't connect his murder, JoJo's murder, to Dio, because the injury would be so unique and strange. You know, something that they have never seen before. Even though Dio doesn't know exactly what the max does, what he does know though is that if he puts it on JoJo, that it would hurt him some kind of way. So now JoJo is in the cities of London, Ogre Street, and he steps out, and this place is dark and gloomy, and I mean, it is just like straight bad. And now JoJo is ready to begin his quest to find the place that sold the poisoning to Dio. So he goes from alleyway to alleyway, corner to corner. Then he runs into a dead end, and Ogre Street is bad. It's like the slums and all that is really bad. It's so bad, Dio went to a dead end, and next thing you know, out of the snow, a cat jumps out with a dead puppy in his mouth. Then, to make matters even worse, 3 goons show up. One got a knife, and I think his name is Torpedo or something, I don't know. So all 3 of them run up on JoJo, and JoJo's backed up on a dead end wall. And they ready to kill JoJo. So the one with the knife shows up, and he lunges at JoJo with the knife. JoJo stands there, and he grabs the knife, the blade of the knife, with his hand. So the goon is like, "Oh man, you see this? I've never seen this before in my life." Excuse me. I've never seen this before in my life. And the other 2 are just staring like, "Whoa, something's not right." He just grabbed the end of the blade, and he has blood dripping from his hands, and he's not scared. So as JoJo was holding the knife, the goon was gonna slice his fingers off real quick, but then JoJo was like, "Try as you might, you can cut my fingers off if you want to, but before you do that, I will kick you with my leg that's as strong as a sledgehammer." So then JoJo said that he was fighting for his family, and he didn't believe that the goon's resolve would be as strong as JoJo's. So then next thing you know, the second goon tries to, I guess, jump him from behind, and then JoJo knocks him, the guy who's trying to jump him from behind, he punches him in the face, knocks him across the ground, and also punches the other guy who had the knife across the ground too. And now JoJo was like, "Does anybody else want to join me?" And he's getting the blood off his hand. So then the 3rd and final goon shows up, and he's like the ringleader, I think. But he's different. He has a hat that actually has a blade around the rim, the trim of the hat. And it's crazy. So the blade starts spinning, then he takes the hat off, and the hat is spinning around his head with the blade spinning too. He puts the hat back on, and then he runs towards JoJo with the blade out. He takes the hat off, and then he's now has basically it's a sword. It's a circular like dagger or something, I guess you could say. But the blade part is the trim of the hat. So he sticks it in JoJo's arm, because JoJo stood there as the goon was charging him in a blocking stance. the goon thought that JoJo was a joke. That's why he was doing that, just standing there in the blocking stance. So he stuck the blade in JoJo's arm. It was spinning, but then JoJo kicks the guy right in the face and sends him flying across the street. JoJo takes the hat out of his arm, the blade out of his arm, throws it on the ground, and next thing you know, he has blood running from his arm. But the bad part is, look like the whole city is out, like a mob. They got the pitchforks and fire and everything. And they're ready to beat JoJo up and kill him. So then the next scene was Dio getting the news that JoJo was in Ogre Street. And then Dio was like, oh, he's not going to make it. He won't last a second. So then the scene goes back to the Ogre Street battle. And as the goons were approaching JoJo, the third goon, the boss goon, was like, don't let nobody lay a finger on him. That's a real gentleman. But the reason why the goon said that was because he realized that JoJo, excuse me, spared his life and spared the other two guys' lives also. So then the henchman asked JoJo if he was holding back when he kicked him in the face, and JoJo responded back, I'm here to help my family, my father. I'm trying to find the guy who makes this poison that was being given to my father. So then that's when the goon was like, he's a real gentleman. He may be naive, but the guy's got spirit. So then he asked, the goon asked JoJo what was his name. JoJo said Jonathan Joestar, and that's when I'm assuming goon showed JoJo where to get the medicine at. They didn't really show, what happened after that. But the next scene now was Dio in a city, and he's walking around drinking a bottle of beer or alcohol, and he's disgusted, I guess. But then he realized that he was drinking just like his father did. So now two goons show up on Dio, and they teasing him, saying that he was drinking from the bottle like he was a baby and all that. So then the other goon was like, hey, when you hear a man talking to you, you're supposed to speak. Didn't your father teach you any lessons? So then Dio took the beer bottle and smashed it up against one of the goons' face. And now the guy's walking around with glass all in his face and his blood coming down. He's like, oh. And the other goon was like, oh man, now you're going to get it. So now he pops out a knife, a dagger, and Dio was like, well, since I can't test the max on JoJo, I'll test it on you. You'll be my guinea pig. So Dio puts the max on one of the goons, and he pushes him towards the other goon who has the glass all in his face. Then he took the knife from the goon who he put the max on and stuck it in the head of the goon who Dio smashed the bottle up against. And the blood from his head with the glass on there went to the other guy who had the max on. The max activated, then flashing lights, and then it just, lights went out, and then the guy just crashed into he fainted into a box. The box broke, and then Dio thought that the guy died. So now Dio was upset. He said that he was bored now because he thought that the max would do more. But next thing you know, as Dio was walking away, old boy gets back up with the max on, and he has like a ghoulish kind of look towards him. Turns out though that he's a vampire look like. So the guy grabs Dio and the mask falls off, and now the guy's like a monster. He got the teeth and the tight skin, the ears that's pointy. So Dio escaped the guy, the monster now, and he grabbed the knife from the other guy's head, and now he's in his fighting position, fighting stance. So then the monster rushes Dio with his hand out. Dio takes the knife, and as the monster is rushing him with his hand out, Dio slices the knife through his arm and dodges it. So the knife is sliding through, and it's like, so the knife is going all down his arm, his hand and arm. Then Dio dodges the rest of his body, and the guy runs into this wall, a brick wall, and the next thing you know, it goes and explodes. Then the explosion knocks Dio all the way to the docking area, and he bumps into a concrete, look like slab or something. So now Dio's shoulder look like might be broken or something. The monster is still though on Dio's tail. So then Dio was like, man, how did that even hurt so bad when that was just the blast from the punch he gave the wall. So now the monster is getting ready to grab Dio. Dio's trying to jump into the river, but it's too late. The monster then sticks his hand inside of his skin up under his neck and starts to drain his blood. And as the monster was draining Dio's blood, his skin, the monster's skin went from gray to like beige. So then the monster was like, I was thirsty at first, but I quenched it with beer. Now I'm thirsty again. So then Dio was like, he's sucking my blood, I'm dying. I can't believe I'm getting ready to die. So then the sun comes up, and everybody knows with vampires, it can't do sun. So as soon as that sun touched his skin, he was torched. So the only thing that was left was his clothes. And then Dio was looking like, what the heck just happened? So then they showed the mags with blood on it, right by a dagger with blood on it. And the next scene was then the Joestar estate. Dio went back there, and all the lights and stuff was out, and he was like, who in the bloody hell turned out all the lights? And then that's when Dio was like, well, look who came back. And then next was the to be continued sign at the bottom, and the episode went off. But all in all, episode 2 I thought was much better than episode 1. What I want to give this show credit for is its writing. The dialogue, the accents, I think are perfect. I know some people don't like dubs and everything, but this one, I love the writing is perfect, you know. It almost comes across as they analyze or psychoanalyze everything that happens, but they do it so beautifully with the accents, and then, you know, the voice actors, Johnny Young Bosch and Steven Zetz, you know, those guys are really doing a good job with the writing. Action, I thought was good too, and the story along with the action went hand in hand, so it was like a natural progression from episode 1 to episode 2. And I can't wait to see where the story goes from here, because it seemed like now that they put vampires into the mix, now it's more mythical or supernatural, you know. But big props to the writing, though. I love the accents and how they analyze everything. I think that's so cool. But now it's time to give this episode a score, and it is getting 9 steams out of 10. Great writing, dialogue, accents, great action, great progression of the story. And I can't wait to see episode 3, because this show is crazy. So 9 steams out of 10. Good job, guys. Good job. But that is my review for the episode. Like, comment, share. Oh, and I want you to meet my new friend, the subscribe button. So click him, subscribe to my account, because I'm bringing more content, guys. But as always, thanks again, guys. It's me, JoJo.